This is Andre, today joined by Rob from the Robo Shlomo YouTube channel.
Thanks, Andre. Great to be here.
There has been a whole slew of news regarding the Netflix Marvel series lately. So in this video, we'll cover Daredevil Season 2 news, including the release date, and recent comments about Elektra and The Punisher. Then we'll discuss chances of a standalone Punisher series, the Jessica Jones Season 2 announcement, and the announcement of Iron Fist Season 1 and Iron Fist showrunner.
Marketing for Season 2 of Daredevil has slowly been ramping up, with release of official pictures and some other minor tidbits and comments from the cast over the last few weeks. The 2016 preview issue of Entertainment Weekly first revealed that it would be released in March. The Entertainment Weekly article did not, however, specify any release date, but since Batman v Superman is scheduled to open on March 25th, some speculated that Daredevil would be released that day too. Others again took that speculation as fact and ran wild with the notion that Marvel used Daredevil to get back at Warner Brothers over Captain America.
Now here a history lesson of why a conspiracy theory postulating that Marvel would use Daredevil to get revenge on Warner might form in the first place is in order.
It all started back on June of 2013 when Marvel announced the then still untitled Captain America 3 for release on May 6, 2016. 3/4 of a year later, in March of 2014, Warner, maybe fed up with Marvel hogging all the coveted early May release dates, announced Batman vs. Superman for release on that very same date, and carefully suggested that it didn't make sense for both movies to open at the same time, implying that Marvel should yield. Marvel weren't moving. If Warner wanted to open their movie at the same time, then so be it.
Marvel might not have had anything to win on the two movies opening against each other, but it was Warner that were the ones with everything to lose. So right around the same time, Guardians of the Galaxy proved to be a smash hit beyond anyone's wildest expectations. Warner blinked and moved Batman v Superman to its current spot, which of course benefited everyone. So, Rob, what do you think about the March 18th release date for Daredevil Season 2?
Well, it's really typical that Netflix releases a series at the end of March or beginning of April. The last release date for Daredevil was April 10th. You want to get the most exposure you can, the biggest bang for your buck, so it kind of makes sense that you would want a week that isn't occupied by anything else, and that you're going to have all the spotlight on your product alone.
It's a business, but it's also smart business. You have two juggernauts coming out in early summer. The first one is Batman v Superman, and the next one is Captain America Civil War. And those two are both going to be monsters. And if Daredevil Season 2 was released between any of the two, I think that it would kind of like drown out in the hype between them. So it really had to move before either of them to stand a chance and get media attention. But this way, by moving 1 week before Batman v Superman, that's actually the perfect spot, because then they can capitalize on the Batman v Superman marketing, because there are so many who are going to be so psyched about Batman v Superman, and they want to see it right now. Then Daredevil vs. The Punisher coming out 1 week before might be pretty tempting and bring in some people that otherwise might not have seen it. Also, just suppose that Daredevil Season 2 absolutely nails it and is brilliant in every way, and further suppose that Batman v Superman slightly disappoints or receives a mixed reaction. The Twitter sphere is going to be full of reactions like Daredevil Season 2 was better. That would be hilarious and quite the marketing coup.
Yeah, I think Marvel is anticipating some of that happening. It would be a nice spillover for them if it did.
Of course, we all know we're going to see both anyway. Moving on to Elektra. We have only now started learning more about her and her character. What do you think of what we've seen of her so far?
I really like the actress that they've cast for Elektra, Elodie Yung, who was in G.I. Joe Retaliation as Jinx. I really think it couldn't get more perfect if you tried. She's Asian descent slightly? I'm not sure.
I'm not entirely sure either, but I remember when I first saw pictures of her, I was like thinking, well, she looks more Asian than she does Greek, but she makes it work in costume.
Oh, yeah.
And from what we've seen of her in pictures and in the trailers, she looks Greek to me.
Elektra was always one of my favorite characters. There is a certain sexiness to the character, and I really think she exudes that. That's the one character I really am looking forward to. I'm looking forward to seeing The Punisher, but I really am curious how well they're going to portray Elektra, and I really think they're on the right track with it.
Yeah, now we know a little bit more about her, because we already know from season 1, where she was referenced, that she and Matt used to date back in college. And courtesy of Slash Film, we have now learned a little bit more about her character.
Jeff Loeb, the Kevin Feige of Marvel on TV, said, I think one of the things that's dynamic about Elodie's performance is that you never quite know if Elektra's telling the truth. Matt, who has this sort of ability to be a human lie detector because he's emotionally attached to her, it skews his ability to be able to whether or not know she's telling the truth, or if he's being manipulated, or is she actually not manipulating him. She challenges Matt's quest for justice, Loeb said. Who are you doing this for? Why are you doing this? What's the end goal you're trying to achieve? Because she has a very clear agenda in terms of what she's trying to achieve and is very self-motivated. That's something that should continually push in the audience. The audience should continually be going, no, she's right. No, he's right. No, she's right. No, he's right. If we can do that, then we really achieved something.
To me, that sounds really good if they're able to make the audience sympathies shift like that when it's intentional.
Even dating back to the comics, a lot of Elektra's goals were often ambiguous. She was a paid assassin. She was actually hired to kill Foggy at one point. She realized who he was, and he realized who she was, and she couldn't go through with it, which ultimately led to her being killed in the comics. Spoiler alert. Again, it's always that dynamic they have of ambiguity, but not ambiguity for ambiguity's sake. And I think that's one of the great aspects of the series. Even in the first season, you didn't see the Kingpin as being completely evil. It sounds like they're really going to explore that in a lot more depth this year.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be a challenging season for poor old Matt. And he's not only being challenged by Elektra, there is also the Punisher.
In an interview with Empire, Charlie Cox says, what makes their conflict so complicated is that both vigilantes are on the same mission to clean up the streets. However, the Punisher is more than content with murdering criminals, while Daredevil would rather bring evildoers alive to face justice. It's really complicated, says Cox. It feels like they're sworn enemies, but at times it feels like they could be best friends and brothers. In order to find common ground, a compromise has to be made. What do you make of these comments, Andre?
I love them. It sounds pretty perfect, because Daredevil and the Punisher have never been best of friends. But when you see the end of Daredevil Season 1, he's a pretty brutal guy. And the showrunner of Season 1 even said that he was just one bad day away from becoming the Punisher. So I kind of take it that the two of them start in a very similar place. But the Punisher, being the Punisher, of course, is far more extreme than Daredevil ever was and ever will be, and maybe his more extremely violent actions will make Daredevil question himself and maybe rein himself in a little bit, and this way put him on the path to the holier-than-thou preachy person he sometimes can come across as in the comics.
One bad day away from being the Punisher. I mean, that fits the character pretty well. Daredevil has been willing to cross those lines occasionally in the comics, but there's always been something to bring him back, whether it was Karen Page, whether it was Elektra, whether it was... Actually, there was one of his other previous girlfriends we haven't seen yet, Heather Glenn, who's actually a big grounding influence for Matt Murdock. But there really does have to be something to push Daredevil, and hopefully it's this dynamic, the two opposing forces, that we're going to see more of. In the same article, the Punisher is described as a cop-turned-vigilante. Can this be true, Andre?
I seriously hope not. I think and hope that that must be a mistake by the author of that article, because it's been contradicted so many other places, but we won't really know for certain until the series comes out. but to me, the only circumstance under which I will accept the Punisher as a cop turned vigilante is if he was a special forces soldier before, who then became a cop, and who then turned a vigilante.
Well, yeah. Well, the setup for that could very well be that a lot of soldiers are coming back, especially special forces, and they're going into police work. They're coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. A lot of them are going into police work. If it is true, it sounds like they're taking a page from the headlines. We're just going to have to wait and see about that, though.
Fingers crossed he's just going to go straight from special forces to vigilante.
Entertainment Weekly also interviews the new Daredevil showrunners Doug Petrie and Mark Ramirez, taking over from Stephen S. DeKnight. On The Punisher, they say that viewers watching the show will be rooting for this guy with a gun, but we're also going to force people, the way we force Matt, to second-guess themselves. Taking lethal justice into your own hands in America in 2015 is tricky shit. We have not shied away from the rich, complicated reality of now. If you've got a gun and you're not the police, you're going to incite strong feelings. We're stirring the pot, and we're aware of the headlines where we live, and we're trying to get people to think. Ramirez adds, the team talked a lot about Taxi Driver, famous malcontent Travis Bickle when shaping their vision of the character. He has a different moral code, he says. Frank has a Hammurabi code. It's like letting a great white shark into the water.
I have a few thoughts on these comments. The bad first. Travis Bickle again. Seriously, people adapting the Punisher needs to get over Travis Bickle. Other than that, this is all good. I really like what they say about him being like a great white shark let into the water. That's pretty cool. And I'm also excited about what they say that they're aware of the reality that we live in right now. What that makes me think is, with everything you had in Ferguson, everything like that, are we going to see the public outcry of someone mercilessly gunning down people who happen to be criminals, but who also have families and people who love them and maybe depend on them?
My first thoughts about Travis Bickle. It's been done to death. It seems like every angry loner over the last 40 years is Travis Bickle. Can we please just get away from that for a while? Yeah, okay, Taxi Driver. Everybody loves Taxi Driver, but enough already. The second, Marvel always has a great habit of setting the stories in the world we live in. And unfortunately, violence and gun violence and police violence is an everyday reality we deal with here in the United States. Hopefully it will start a conversation, even more in-depth conversation. We will take very important things from something like this and be able to reach a broader consensus. That's my hope, at least. Not that that's ever happened before, but there's a first time for everything.
But taking all these comments as one, I'm overall really looking forward to Bernthal's portrayal of the character. And according to TV Line, which is the sister site of Deadline Hollywood, so they're pretty legit, the buzz on his performance is overwhelmingly positive, and Netflix is, quote, this close to pulling the trigger on a Punisher series, which has been rumored before. What do you think of that?
I think that this series is going to be a great way to introduce the Punisher. I don't want to say it's all but a done deal, but I think they're just sitting back, they're waiting to see the reaction. If I would much rather see the Punisher get a Netflix series than another movie, just because it is a rather complex character, and a 2-hour movie is not going to be enough to really go very deep into a character like that. It works fine for some characters, but it's more suited for Netflix, and I'm tending to think it's all but a done deal.
Yeah, I hope so as well. And I think so too. Like, this isn't the first time that we've heard about it. There were rumors going when Iron Fist seemed to be in trouble that they might scrap Iron Fist altogether and do a Punisher series instead, which I would have been okay with, but as long as we get the Punisher series in the end, then I'm happy, and I think that's what we are going to get, unless Daredevil Season 2 ends up a complete disaster. Time will tell on that one. But Jon Bernthal seems to be taking his role very seriously, which is evident from a January 16th interview in Entertainment Weekly about how he approached the character.
Bernthal says, "This is a character that's resonated for a long time. It's an important character. It's one I'm honored to play. This is a guy who means a lot to a lot of people, and his character has to resonate with law enforcement and military. People have been coming up to me on the streets of New York saying, "Don't mess this up." The Punisher is a guy who brought the war home with him in the worst possible way. There are a lot of iterations of this character, and in all of them, it's a man who has gone through this unbelievable trauma. And what's interesting about our take on him is how the trauma reshapes his own philosophy. I can't give too much away, but what's interesting is the way showrunners Doug Petrie and Marco Ramirez have made his story a slow burn. It's interesting to find this guy at the point we find him. You want an evolution and a process. He starts in one place and will end up in another.
Two things stand out to me here. He expresses familiarity with the character, but we also learn that his story will be a slow burn. He's going through an arc. Now, based on the pictures we've seen so far, he's not yet fully formed early in the season, but will likely become the Punisher we know and love throughout the course of the season, much like what was done with Daredevil himself in Season 1. As we discussed before, it kind of looks like they're taking the year one route with a little bit of Taxi Driver and Travis Bickle in his clothing style. You probably won't see the finished Punisher until the very end of the season, or maybe not until the next time we see him. I'm okay with that, as long as they get the origin right. And the closest thing they have come to getting the origin right up until this point in film is the flashback sequences of Punisher Warzone. So if this can do better, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, sounds like they're going to make him earn the title of the Punisher, much like they did with Daredevil in the first season, which is actually good. You kind of get impatient. You want to see him from the get-go with the skull and everything, but it's more rewarding when you see that evolution and become who he is and sort of take up the role of the Punisher. Nobody's ever born who they are right out of the gate, you know. All of our experiences shape who we are, and it's no different in this case. Bernthal, he further says, "The training and physicality is extremely important in whatever I do. Luckily, I know guys in the military branch he was in. I train with them and train a lot with weapons. But with Frank, what was important was the emptiness inside him. He's dealing with this unbelievable loss. There's unbelievable anger and hatred and shame. There's a sense of responsibility, and as a father and husband, if I were to lose my family on my watch, I had to put myself in a dark place as possible for the last 6 months. The first few months, I was taking long walks across the Brooklyn Bridge to the set, trying to shed any outside influence of joy. Whether it's successful or not remains to be seen."
That the rumors of the Punisher series keep on persisting kind of suggest to me that he might have been on the successful side, but we will see. Not going to count my eggs just yet. Learned that the hard way before. But still, I really dig these comments, and here he basically flat out confirms that the Punisher has military background.
Yeah,
he might be a cop too, but he definitely has the military background, and that's the most important thing.
Have you ever made that walk across the Brooklyn Bridge?
No, I have not.
It's a very, especially when the sun is going down, it's a very long and very sort of lonely environment. You have the traffic around you, but I can see where he's coming from. It would be easy to shut out everything else. And when you see the sun, you feel like a speck amongst this enormousness of the rest of the city. So I can see how he can channel that. So that's actually very interesting from that perspective.
It's really cool to hear a New Yorker's perspective on what he says.
And speaking of success, Bernthal goes on to say, "One of the things I'm most excited for is I'm hoping the audience will go back and forth. There are things you can identify and get behind, and there are things when the character pushes it, you can't get behind him anymore. And that's what I want. I think that's the nature of this character. This is a guy who pushes the envelope. He's brutal, but he's coming from a place of unbelievable hurt. And the best thing about the character is he just doesn't care. It's a highly personal mission he's on, and if he offends you, it's completely unimportant to him."
Yeah, that's the Punisher right there.
Yes.
That's how the Punisher is written at its best. That's like when you think that, yes, this is really cool, and you really sympathize with him, and you just love what he's doing, but at the same time, he just might take it that little bit too far, making you question yourself that little bit. It reminds me a little bit of the final episode of the series The Shield. There's going to be spoilers here, so if you haven't seen it, then just skip like a minute ahead or something. But basically, in The Shield, you have Detective Vic Mackey, and he does all of these badass crimes, and you root for him every step of the way as he just digs himself deeper and deeper and deeper into trouble. And then in the final episode, he is forced to confess everything he's done. And then you hear listed really all the horrible shit that has gone down, forcing you to question yourself. Did I really support all that when that was going on? And it seems like they're doing something similar here, making you root for him, but then suddenly you have to question yourself. Why am I rooting for this? And that's how the character should be.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. You should not feel good about what he's doing. He achieves his own ends, but...
At what cost?
Yeah, exactly. What cost? So definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, March 18th can't come soon enough. And neither can a Punisher standalone series. But until then, there are more things happening in the world of Marvel Netflix. On January 17th, Entertainment Weekly broke the scoop that Jessica Jones has been renewed for a second season. Showrunner Melissa Rosenberg was previously made it clear that she has big plans for season 2, will stay on as showrunner.
Considering the reception to Jessica Jones, this is really good news. There's no release date. We know that at season 2 after Daredevil, it's supposed to be Luke Cage coming next, possibly in the fall of 2016. But we don't know about Jessica Jones season 2. I suspect it won't be till early 2017. And we also have The Defenders and Iron Fist coming up. We do know that Iron Fist has just picked up a showrunner in Scott Buck, who was on the back end of Dexter, and you have some thoughts about that you expressed to me.
Yeah, I absolutely hate it, to be honest. People say that, oh yes, we got the showrunner from Dexter, as if it was a good thing. And it would have been a good thing if it was good Dexter. But I like to divide Dexter into 3. You have good Dexter, which is seasons 1 to 4, and then you have mediocre Dexter, which is season 5, and then you have horrible, embarrassing fanfic Dexter, which is season 6 and 7.
So saying Scott Buck was the showrunner on the back end of Dexter would be appropriate then.
Yes, absolutely, in every sense of the word, because he was the showrunner on really bad fanfic Dexter. And I absolutely hated seasons 6 and 7. So I was screaming, no! when I learned of that announcement in best Darth Vader style.
No!
Yeah, exactly. Kind of like that. The only gleam of hope that I have for Iron Fist is that he was just a wrong fit for Dexter, but he might be the right fit for Iron Fist. So far, Marvel hasn't gone wrong, so hopefully they see that some of his talents that were so wrong for Dexter might be a decent fit here.
Well, worst case too, they could always fire him. I mean, they're not afraid of changing staff, even at the last minute, as we've seen.
Even Daredevil had a change in staff in the last minute, and that worked pretty perfectly. So I gotta say, if we get a similar change in showrunner here, if Buck suddenly has another amazing offer, or he has to take time off for personal reasons, or some other cover story like that, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. And after that, it's going to be exciting to see what comes out in which order. Because after Luke Cage, then we don't really know what is coming next, and I don't think they know either. It could be The Defenders, but then again, it could be season 2 of Jessica Jones. It could be season 1 of Iron Fist. Hell, it could even be The Punisher and season 3 of Daredevil in there somewhere.
Adweek's Jason Lynch suggests that the order could be Defenders, Jessica Jones, and then Iron Fist.
Yeah, it's all up for grabs.
Just gotta wait and see, that's all.
Until then, we'll keep you up to date here at Midnight's Edge, and be sure to check out Rob's channel, Robo Shlomo. Link is in the description.
Thanks for having me again, Andre. I appreciate it. I love the work you guys do here at Midnight's Edge.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit subscribe so you can catch all of our upcoming videos. For more podcasts, news, and reviews, check us out at midnightsedge.net and follow us on Twitter at midnightsedge. Also check out our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/midnightsedge.